All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into two of the most controversial and honestly fascinating books that you've probably never read, at least not in a standard Bible. See, these are ancient texts, and they are just packed with these epic stories that, for one reason or another, just didn't make the final cut. So, yeah, let's get right into it.
I mean, just imagine for a second, what if the stories we all know are just one piece of a much larger, much wilder puzzle? What if there were these incredible tales of celestial rebellions, of forbidden knowledge being handed down to humanity, and a race of giants that actually roamed the earth?
Yeah, that's a direct quote from the Book of Enoch. And get this, 3,000 cubits? That's about 4,500 feet tall. We're talking skyscraper territory here. This isn't some minor detail or a little side story. No, this is a central plot point with absolutely earth-shattering consequences. And this is exactly the kind of explosive stuff we're digging into today.
These hidden stories, they paint a picture of a world that is way more chaotic than you might think. We're talking about fallen angels, secret arts being taught to mortals, and these giant offspring who just brought violence and corruption to the world, which, in the end, led to a divine reset.
So, where are all these crazy narratives coming from? Well, they're from two specific ancient Jewish works, the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jubilees. Both of these were written centuries before the birth of Christ. And, they were hugely influential back in their day.
So what exactly are these books? You'll often hear them called pseudepigrapha, which is a fancy way of saying they have a false attribution. But you have to remember, for a lot of ancient readers, these were considered divinely inspired scripture.
First up, the Book of Enoch. It's really a collection of different texts, all presented as the visions of Enoch himself. Now, he's Noah's great-grandfather, the guy who was so righteous that the book of Genesis just says he walked with God and then was taken. His book gets into cosmic journeys, the whole hierarchy of angels, the nature of evil, and some intense prophecies about the end of days.
Then you've got the Book of Jubilees. People sometimes call this one Little Genesis. The claim here is that it's a secret, more detailed version of events that was given directly to Moses by an angel. It basically rewrites the familiar stories from Genesis and Exodus, filling in a ton of gaps, even naming previously unnamed women, and it restructures all of history into these 49-year periods called Jubilees.
So here's the key difference. Think of Enoch as being all about cosmic secrets and the future, what's happening up in the heavens. Jubilees, on the other hand, is way more focused on the past. It's trying to set the record straight on the correct history of Israel and show how God's law was eternal and unchanging, right from the dawn of creation.
So the big question is, right? If these books were so popular, why were they left out of the Bible? Well, they were written during this really vibrant and, frankly, contentious time called the Second Temple period. And for certain groups, like the community that gave us the Dead Sea Scrolls, these books were scripture, no question about it. But, as time went on, centuries passed, and leaders in both Rabbinic Judaism and early Christianity started to, lock down their official canons, well, Enoch and Jubilees just kind of fell to the wayside. Left out, sure, but definitely never forgotten.
Okay, let's get back to those giants because, come on, this is probably the most famous story from these books. It's basically a massive expansion of just a few really cryptic verses you can find in Genesis chapter 6. So here's how the story goes. A rogue group of angels, known as the Watchers, look down, see human women, and decide they want them. So they make a pact to go down and take them as wives, which was a huge violation of the cosmic order. Then they teach humanity all this forbidden knowledge. Things like making weapons, cosmetics, even sorcery. And their kids? They were the Nephilim, a race of giants who apparently ate everything mankind had. And when that was gone, they started eating people. The whole world was filled with blood and chaos. And that is what's presented as the direct reason for the Great Flood.
But it wasn't all just about cosmic chaos. These books were also really concerned with cosmic order. And for the authors, that order boiled down to time itself, all based on this one single perfect number.
You see, the authors of Enoch and Jubilees were pushing for this perfect 364-day solar calendar. It's a system where holidays would always fall on the exact same day of the week, year after year. Now, this wasn't just about scheduling. This was a direct radical attack on the religious authorities in Jerusalem who used a lunar calendar. By claiming their calendar came from God, they were basically saying the entire religious establishment had gotten it completely wrong.
So, how do people look at these texts today? It's a complicated legacy, for sure. Interpretations really tend to fall into two main camps. So, on one side, you have the academic or historical view. Scholars look at these books and see this incredible window into the past. It shows them that ancient Judaism wasn't this one single, unified religion. It was actually a whole collection of diverse and often competing ideas. Then, on the other side, you have the prophetic approach. This view sees these books as literal, divinely inspired truth, holding the keys not just to the past, but to the future, predicting things like the rise of the Antichrist and the final judgment.
And just to give you a really concrete example of that prophetic approach, look at this timeline. Some interpreters will actually take a prophecy from the book of Daniel, the canonical one, about a 7 times punishment. They calculate that as 2,520 prophetic years. Then they start the clock with Cyrus the Great's decree in 537 BC that ended the Babylonian exile. And when you run the numbers, converting to the modern calendar, you land on May 14th, 1948, the exact day the modern state of Israel was declared. For them, that's undeniable proof of the timeline's divine accuracy.
So, whether you see these books as history, as prophecy, or as something else entirely, their importance is just undeniable. They really force us to rethink what we thought we knew about the ancient world.
So, after this deep dive into these wild ancient texts, what's the bottom line? What are the key things we should probably remember? Well, first, they show us that the neat, tidy version of religious history we sometimes picture, it just wasn't reality. The ancient world was a messy, vibrant, and fascinating place full of competing ideas. Second, these books didn't just vanish. They had a profound influence on the writers of the New Testament and on early Christian thought. And finally, from video games all the way to modern theological debates, they are still capturing our imagination and pushing us to ask some really big questions.
And that really brings us to our final question. What are these texts, really? Are they forgotten histories that just add some color and context to the scriptures we already know? Or are they literal blueprints for the future, decoding the final days of humanity? Or maybe there's something else altogether, powerful myths designed to help us explore the nature of good, of evil, and of divine justice. It seems the answer is still being written. Thanks for joining us for The Explainer.